Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. We got Dank, your host, and my co-host, Jeremy, came in again and helping us out. Jeremy's been coming in real regular and appreciate his help. We got a lot of stories here, more than we can probably cover tonight, so we got to keep moving along. You notice the t-shirts here in front of us and also behind us. That's part of our fundraiser for the Emerald Empire Hemp Fest. These are shirts that I've been wearing on the show and different events, and so we got an opportunity to get a collector item here, so to speak. So make a donation and pick up a shirt. So anyway, we'll get back into the news right now. This is first one. This is local.
Coos Bay has joined Oregon cities is put in a moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries the state has legalized. The World newspaper of Coos Bay reports the moratorium gives the city a year to examine its land use laws to deal with the dispensaries. Development Director Eric Day says he's looking at how to best plan for allowing them. He says the code would have allowed dispensaries in much of the city. They say that as if it's a bad thing. The city plans to begin accepting applications for dispensary licenses March 3rd. One major Oregon city, Medford, banned dispensaries, arguing medical marijuana is still illegal under federal law. Others have taken attacks similar to that of Coos Bay. The Ashland City Council voted this week to accept dispensaries, striking a provision allowing business licenses to be denied from lawful activity.
Yeah, so that's good and bad news. It kind of, especially on Medford, it's onions to Medford for not letting have dispensaries there. That's how.
But Ashland is close by.
But
and
yes,
allowing
exactly. Oh yeah, that is good. Ashland is generally, it's always been seemed a little bit more liberal, I think, and obviously more sensible. So, good news on Ashland. Excuse me. Actually, they're meeting tonight in Albany as we speak, and so it's going to be interesting to see how that meeting turned out. But they're trying to stop dispensaries from coming to Albany too. So anyway, the fight is a long ways from being over. And yes, dispensaries are going to start. They'll start accepting dispensary licenses, applications for dispensary licenses. But before you get too excited about opening your own dispensary, the first step is a license is $4,000. So just to let you know what's going on there, you bet. So next story is another interesting news item. The Attorney General Eric Holder says that feds are going to set the rules for banks and pot money. The Obama administration will soon announce regulations to make it easier for banks to do business with legal marijuana sellers. Attorney General Eric Holder said Thursday, "You don't want just huge amounts of cash in these places. They want to be able to use the banking system," Holder said during an appearance at the University of Virginia's Miller Center. "There's a public safety component to this. Huge amounts of cash, substantial amounts of cash just kind of lying around with no place for it to be appropriately deposited is something that would worry me just from a law enforcement perspective." While Holder spoke twice of new regulations that were being prepared, a Justice Department spokesman said later that the Attorney General was referring to legal guidance for prosecutors and federal law enforcement. Such a legal memo wouldn't be enforceable in court and would amount to less than the kind of clear safe harbor many banks say they would want before accepting money from pot businesses. The federal banking accommodation being worked out jointly by the Justice and the Treasury Departments comes in the wake of Jointly, yeah, play on words there. Comes in the wake of decisions by voters in Colorado and Washington State to legalize the state and possession of pot. The moves have created legal tensions since marijuana remains illegal under federal law. One particular problem has been the refusal of banks to deal with pot-related businesses out of fears they will be accused of violating money laundering laws. We're in the process now of working with our colleagues at the Treasury Department to come up with regulations that will deal with this issue, Holder said. He added that the new rules were likely to emerge very soon and were not intended to amount to a blessing of marijuana by the federal government. It is an attempt to deal with the reality that exists in these states, he said. Holder did not specify whether the rules would apply only in states that have broadly legalized marijuana or also to states which have legalized it for medical use. In August, the Attorney General announced the Obama administration would seek to overturn the Colorado and Washington state measures. He said federal drug agents would continue to leave most drug law enforcement to local authorities and would focus on large drug operations, selling priorities that appeared to make it unlikely the feds would engage in aggressive enforcement in the states which have legalized pot. So once again, we just have to go on what they say and hope that they mean what they say, and their track record hasn't been real good. So.
Did you say would seek to overturn them or would not?
What's that?
I think you accidentally said they would seek to overturn it. It says they will not seek to overturn it.
Right. He would not. Yes, we would not. Thank you. Would not seek to overturn the Colorado and Washington state measures. So we're just hoping that they go through with what they say this time. So we got our hopes up. Real interesting things going on in the Midwest. I guess you'd call it the Midwest. Indiana hemp bill passes the committee. The Indiana Senate's Agriculture Committee passed SB 357 out of committee today. The bill would, pending federal approval, re-legalize industrial hemp in Indiana. The bill passed 7-0 with 3 members absent. The bill now goes to the full Senate. If it passes there, which a few pundits say they expect it to, it will go to the House, probably the Agriculture Committee there, then to the full House, then to Governor Pence for a signature. A member of the North American Hemp Council, representatives from the Indiana Farmers Union, a spokesman from FlexForm Technologies out of Elkhart, Indiana, which makes automobile interior panels from hemp, and myself testified in favor of the bill. This is written by a normal member out of Indiana. No word on our decrim bill, SB 314, being assigned to a hearing. Nothing on HB 1185, a medical necessity defense bill. So that's the information out of our friends at Indiana Normal. And we also have another story. This is from the Kentucky.com website. American Farm Bureau calls for an end to federal ban on hemp production. The American Farm Bureau Federation has approved a new policy resolution that urges the repeal of the classification of industrial hemp as a controlled substance. The effort, led by the Indiana Farm Bureau at the National Group's annual meeting last week in Texas, puts one of the largest and most influential mainstream farm lobbying organizations squarely in the pro-hemp camp and on record opposing, quote, the classification of industrial hemp as a controlled substance. The Farm Bureau before passed a policy resolution supporting industrial hemp research in 1995. Kentucky Farm Bureau didn't take any action at its December convention and has no formal policy on hemp, spokesman Dan Smalden said. Kentucky has no stance on it at this point. We do what the members want us to do. Since they've not given us what direction yet, that's where we are. Indiana, however, has been advocating for it, just as we mentioned. So, industrial hemp is one such opportunity that may work for such farmers in certain regions. He said, furthermore, industrial hemp will allow the U.S. farmers to share in income that is currently going overseas. Right now, it is legal to import hemp, but illegal to produce it. Therefore, there is no opportunity currently to share in the profit. Kentucky Agriculture Commissioner James Comer said Wednesday that Indiana's push shows that Kentucky needs to, quote, get on the ball because there's a lot of competition on this. When we started this in August 2012 with Senator Rand Paul, there weren't very many states interested in pursuing a hemp industry. Now there are 20 states, unquote. The House version of the Farm Hemp Bill contains an amendment to legalize university research on industrial hemp in states that have removed barriers to the crop's production, according to the group Vote Hemp, which applauded the Farm Bureau's move. Kentucky and 31 other states have passed such legislation, Colorado being licensed farmers to grow hemp this year. U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack told the Herald Leader last week that he has asked the U.S. Attorney General's office to review the classification. Farmers see hemp imported from China, Canada, and realize that they've missed out on this growing U.S. market for hemp. Farmers are coming forward with the formal support for policy change in favor of hemp legalization is a huge step forward, and Congress should follow their lead and pass legislation to once again allow hemp farming under federal law. Many people in Kentucky and elsewhere have questioned whether hemp would create many jobs or be a cash crop for farmers. Comer said that's why the American Farm Bureau's action is important. I think that it shows the growing movement by agricultural leaders to embrace industrial hemp as a crop of the future. The fact that Tom Vilsack openly endorsed industrial hemp and a week later the American Farm Bureau Federation, the most conservative organization there is, endorses it, shows this is viable. So things are definitely improving across the whole front of cannabis, and of course Oregon Oregon is legal in hemp by state law. However, nothing will happen until it's legal federally. But anyway, Oregon is one of those 20 states that has laws in support of hemp production. So things are moving forward, like I said, and it's exciting times. It's history is happening right here. I want to make some announcements here. This first segment's coming to an end. I want to mention again that we have the website growers2patients.net. This is a tool that we need patients, anybody involved in marijuana, to use. It's a tool. It's free to use, and all you got to do is basically pick it up and use it. If you know a patient that's looking for a grower, or if you know a grower looking for patients, this is a means to get them together. You come to this website. It's no charge. You sign up on it, and it's a forum. Mainly the thing is it's a forum that you can post in, and then let it be known what you need or what you can offer, and get everybody together. So it's there to use it, and I really encourage you to use it. And also, we're looking to do a fundraiser for the Hemp Fest. If you have any ideas on where we could do it at a venue, we're thinking of doing a talent show. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be working on that and talking more about it. And the big thing is Lane County chapter of the ACLU presents Oregon relegalization, and I'll be the guest facilitator on that, and that's February 13th. At 5:30 to 7 at the Eugene Public Library, Bascom Room. So if you want to come by, that should be interesting. So we're going to bring this segment to an end, and we've got our next segment coming up, so we'll be right back.
And now a message from the American Marijuana Growers Association.
Hi, I'm a farmer, and I work hard every day to grow high-quality marijuana, the biggest cash crop in these United States. I'd like to thank you for your support of U.S. marijuana policy. Because marijuana is illegal, I don't have to pay taxes. Even better, prohibition leads to artificially inflated prices, which means a better quality of life for me and my family, as long as I don't get caught. Just as importantly, your tax dollars support thousands of U.S. agents who work tirelessly to keep low-grade, foreign marijuana out of our country. So thank you, America. And remember, whether you're nauseated from chemotherapy or just in the mood for a nice, cool buzz, choose the best pot in the world, American Homegrown.
Welcome back. You made it to Eugene Cannabis TV, the second segment. We got Dank here, and we got Jeremy on my right. And you heard for years about how the cigarette companies were just getting ready to get in the marijuana market. Well, we got a story for you. So, Jeremy, you want to read that? We should read the headline.
Philip Morris introduces Marlboro marijuana cigarettes. As Philip Morris, the world's largest cigarette producer, announced today they will join the marijuana legalization bandwagon and start producing marijuana cigarettes. Marketed under the brand Marlboro M, the cigarettes will be made available for sale through the marijuana licensed outlets in the state of Colorado and the state of Washington when it becomes commercially legal later this year. Serafin and Norkick, Philip Morris's senior vice president for marketing, said in an interview that the company has been high on the idea of marketing cannabis. Yeah, that's an amusing play on words. And has been monitoring the market for some time. It was only when the recent legalization initiatives winning in Colorado and Washington that they finally made the decision to take a leap of faith. Norkick added that they have begun contacting former drug lords in Mexico and Paraguay, currently the largest marijuana producing countries in the world, for the possibility of setting up a distribution ring across the North and South American continents to streamline the supply lines. Since only tobacco products are currently banned in advertisements and promotions in the United States, Philip Morris has also set aside a huge $15 billion advertising budget just to promote the new Marlboro M, and are now negotiating with major networks and publishers to start marketing the product to consumers in the beginning of 2015. Norkick also revealed that a big initial push is planned and around January next year, and have acquired most of that airtime for Super Bowl XLX. However, since marijuana will be legal only in Colorado and Washington during the 2015 Super Bowl, all the ads will be blacked out for all other states and will only show a static M logo with the smoke blowing in the background for the duration of the ad. Philip Morris shares hit an all-time high on the marijuana news. Here's another hunt. And shot up to $998 from $83.03 just a few hours before the announcement went public.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting story. However, it's April Fool's. It's actually on the website Abril Uno, which is Spanish for April 1 in Spanish. So, yeah, this is this story, and more importantly, there was another one that I saw on Facebook that when it's talked, I think they said there were 37 deaths in the first day that pot was legalized in Colorado. There was 37 deaths.
Yeah, I heard something crazy like that.
And I mean, it's humorous. All of us in the know that that's ridiculous. But the reason I brought this—
it's physically impossible to smoke enough to kill yourself.
But the reason I brought this story in is to make the point about, and just like the other one, is yes, we can laugh about it, but at the same time, we need to be careful about talking about stories like this because people will think they're true, especially our enemies, and they'll start spreading more lies, and that's all. We don't need more misinformation, you know.
Well, also, it brings up the fact that it would be horrible if Marlboro was able to produce it, because the fear is that they'll put the same crap they do in their cigarettes.
Yeah, to me, yeah, exactly, to make you more, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's not something we're looking forward to. So let's hope that never comes about. So let's let me jump. Let's change the. Well, we'll talk about Florida. I guess that's the next thing. Yeah, let's jump right into that. This is really interesting. Medical marijuana advocates meet the Florida ballot goal. A petition campaign to legalize medical marijuana in Florida has gathered enough signatures to put the issue on November's general election ballot. Just after noon Friday, county election officials had validated 710,508 signatures, enough to force a vote on a proposed constitutional amendment to allow the growth, sale, and possession of marijuana for medical uses. The Florida Supreme Court could still reject the ballot language and any vote along with it, but organizers expressed jubilation Friday that an expensive last-minute push at least fulfilled the signature requirements for citizen initiated amendments. Quote, "I've spent $4 million, hired the best legal minds in the state of Florida, rallied my army of angels, and collected more than 1.1 million signatures in 5 or 6 months," said Orlando lawyer John Morgan, who took over a small grassroots petition campaign last year and gave it to the clout to get it on the ballot. Yeah, another play on words, huh? But yeah, and but that's the thing. That's the bottom line. Is it takes money to get this stuff done. And unless we have some rich philanthropist step up with the money, it isn't happening. And it's very disappointing, but that's just the reality of it. They go on by law, constitutional amendment campaigns for 2014 require signatures from 683,149 registered voters. Morgan's group, United for Care, added more than 50,000 signatures on Friday to exceed that mark. Morgan, who has paid about 3/4 of United for Care's expenses, said the petition drive cost twice as much as he had planned, largely because signatures lagged by December and the campaign had to gear up. See, this is what happened to Measure 80. Measure 80 towards the end was lagging, and they were down on signatures. Yeah. Their signature authenticity rate was extremely low, and that will kill you too. And so they tightened up their ship in the last few months, and actually made it by the skin of their teeth. But they made it on the ballot, and so
hopefully that's what's going to happen this time.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I'm hoping, because that's our only hope at this point. Because both campaigns are lagging badly, so at least Oregon. So anyway, back to Florida. By paying professional collectors as much as $4 a signature, United for Care began dumping hundreds of thousands of petitions on beleaguered county election officials. At the 1.1 million mark, the campaign shut down 2 weeks ago, then waited to see how many signatures actually came from registered voters. The rejection rate ran about 30%, typical for large petition campaigns. Still, the Florida Division of Elections reported 50,000 new signatures validations on Friday, putting the total over the top. The campaign also met its other requirements, hitting signature targets in at least 14 of Florida's 27 congressional districts. The Tampa Bay area proved to be fertile ground. 165,042 valid signatures came from Pinellas, Hillsborough, Pasco, and Hernando counties, nearly 1/4 of the state total. Save Our Society from Drugs, a St. Petersburg advocacy group, downplayed the significance of Friday's signature count. This really doesn't change anything, said Executive Director Calvina Fay. We are still waiting to hear from the Supreme Court about the ballot language. We believe the language is misleading and are hopeful that the justices will rule soon. This also doesn't change the fact that the initiative is riddled with loopholes that would create de facto legalization in our state. We believe that if this gets to the ballot, Floridians will vote wisely and reject it. 20 states and the state of Columbia have legalized medical marijuana. Constitutional amendment proposals in Florida require, 20 states. Constitutional amendment proposals in Florida require 60% of the votes cast to pass, but polls show widespread support for medical marijuana. The measure also could affect the governor's race. Governor Rick Scott opposes medical marijuana, while former Republican Governor Charlie Crist, the presumptive Democratic candidate who works at Morgan's law firm, favors it. In the legislature, the Republican majority leadership has so far squelched attempts to legalize medical marijuana by statute. That could change this year with a bill to legalize Charlotte's Web, a cannabis strain that seems to help children with seizure disorders without getting them high. The idea has garnered some Republican support, but some fear opening the door to wider use. The Florida Supreme Court has until April 1st to decide whether United for Care's ballot language is confusing and illegal. If the court says it is, United for Care's signatures will be invalid. Any future ballot initiative would have to start from scratch and could not come to a vote until 2016 at the earliest. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at this point, but they made a heck of an effort. And then I wanted to talk briefly, and we just got our closing minutes here. We have politicians that are changing their story, and it's really interesting. And of course, I can't get my hand on the story at the moment, but let's see. Yeah, Rick Perry. Here we go. Yeah, Rick Perry, out of Texas. He's for decriminalization of marijuana use, not legalization, but the softening of punishment for pot users in the border state. As governor,
is amazing in Texas.
Yeah, it is. As governor, I have begun to implement policies that start us toward a decriminalization by introducing alternative drug courts that provide treatment and softer penalties for minor offenses. So anyway, he's not saying legalization, but at least he has backed off somewhat on his stance. So anyway, we'll all come down to the Eugene Cannabis TV show on Monday nights at 7:30 behind the Sheldon High School. And come on down and come by and visit, check out the show, see how we do it, and better yet, if you'd like to come on, you're more than welcome. Come down just every week like Jeremy does. So we'll see you next week. Thank you.
I mean, herbs are good for everything.